The records are now open. Interesting. Okay. So as I was saying the prayer, I was getting like hints of blue in your aura. And so as I took a second to just kind of sit and observe your aura. And the thing with the aura, they're wanting me to to explain is it changes all the time. But there's different layers to the aura. But this aura, it feels like it's like the constant aura that's at a soul level or like at a deeper level. And so this is kind of like just reflecting to you the lessons of this soul, or I mean, of your soul and this incarnation. So there's a lot of like dark blue, like indigo blue, kind of a little bit of lighter blue, and then green with hints of yellow at the bottom, but just a lot of blue and green. And so something with the blue that was coming through, I kept hearing like grays and like future timeline. So there's an aspect of you that is has connections with the grays. Have you heard of the grays before?
No.
I know we kind of talk a little bit about star seeds with like Nancy and stuff. How familiar are you with like star seeds and like that type of stuff?
I am familiar with Star Siege, but I'm not familiar with the exact like tribes and sorry, sorry. Give me a sec. There's another doggy here.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah. So this yeah, he's like, yes.
Hey.
Okay. He discovered his new couch and wants to be here. Anyway,
It's okay.
okay, awesome.
So it feels like an aspect of yourself is so there's many different types of ETs. And when we think of ETs, it's always that kind of classic gray alien with like big eyes and like that type of thing. And we there's always a negative connotation to it because of how movies portray aliens. It's meant to be like scary and like, but really there are many types of aliens and grays, just like how there are many types of humans, right? Like we're all on the spectrum of good and bad on some level. Um, but what was interesting was it felt like I kept hearing grays, and it's like an aspect of use from a future timeline.
Wow.
Yeah, it's from a future timeline. And so you're kind of here to help bridge the gap from what happened in your timeline and help support us in this current timeline because it's like the timeline you're on in the future, it kind of occurred where pretty much humans evolved in a way where they were devoid of like emotion and like empathy and sensitivity. It was very much very like logical and reasoning and very much just like the very much like almost very scientific. So it's missing some of that feminine aspect. And so in a way, you also came here and reincarnated in this lifetime to help bridge that gap of the emotions and the sensitivities of life. And so what it feels like too is maybe in this lifetime, the experiences that you were going through was really here to help trigger a lot of those emotions, a lot of those sensitivities, whether it's through pain or struggle or just like suffer, like, you know, human life suffering. But it's really here to help you anchor in those feelings by allowing it to come through versus like suppressing it and pushing it away. As I'm saying it, does it like bring up anything or like does it resonate on some level?
It does. I think I mean the blue, green, and purple is what I usually gravitate towards.
Mhm.
And um definitely a lot of emotions in this lifetime. Um so I guess just to clarify, what you're saying is maybe my past or like my more identities. So in this lifetime, I'm learning more of that emotions side of things, so I can kind of bring it back to.
Yeah, exactly. Because the soul holds it's imprinted with all of your life experiences in the Akasha. So as you're going through this life, everything that you're going through, your thoughts, your feelings, it's being recorded in the Akasha, which is really an aspect of our soul. There's a connection with the Akashic field in our soul. And so you're really kind of like uploading and downloading information for your soul. And your higher self is kind of playing these out for you in a way that's most beneficial for your own ascension, for your own evolution. And so maybe that's why there are a lot of stuff that it is very triggering emotionally, but it's really here to help allow you to face these emotions in a way where you're accepting, you're able to witness and acknowledge it, and then just hold space for yourself because it is like a tough experience. So it's a lot of almost like trials of the heart, and also trials of the throat, which is expressing these emotions, expressing the truth of your experience, but really it's the truth to yourself, right? What it could be like denial or kind of pushing it back into the shadows. Does that resonate or bring anything up for you?
Yes, I don't tend to express my emotions a lot, and I'm learning that side of myself to just kind of open up and and definitely a lot of trials. I this year especially I'm evolving a lot in terms of
Mhm.
understanding myself where and then accepting this experience
Mhm.
and and evolution and where it's going to take me. So yeah, it all landed, and this is exactly where I'm going through at this moment in my life right now.
Yeah, and it feels like the it's like the higher your higher self is wanting to say the experiences moving forward are really here to help catapult you forward into that different version of you that is wanting to be more sensitive and tuned into your emotions and away from those lower frequencies of like insecurity or doubt or fear or apprehension. Because in a way, it's like you've experienced the dark side already, but it's like now, how can you step into the light side
Yeah.
of human experience? But then ultimately, what I'm hearing too is coming to a point where it's like, oh, at the end of the day, it's all neutrality. It's all just part of the human experience, good and bad. It's all just meant for my highest good. And so you're just kind of flipping the coin until eventually later in life, maybe you're going to kind of reflect back and like, oh, like it was just all good for me. And then you come to this state of almost like gratitude and peace and stillness and acceptance because it's like you recognize the patterns of your life and you're like, yeah, like I understand why. Very much that energy, if that resonates.
It does. It does. It's beautiful. Mm.
Yeah. And the feeling is there's this energy of going through a dark night of the soul for you. And it feels like it's occurring over a span of like months to even like 1 to 2 years. Have you heard of the dark night of the soul term before?
No, no. But it started about for me it started about last year, last August or so. So so it does, and then now I'm kind of hopefully I'm stepping out of it. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to ask how they describe the dark night of the soul for you, or do you understand the dark night of the
No,
soul?
I don't. Like please describe
Oh,
it.
gotcha. Let me ask them. How would you describe dark night of the soul? So the dark night of the soul is essentially you're going through a reflection phase where things in your life are mirroring to you what is not serving you anymore. And so you're having to rethink the pillars of your foundation that aren't holding you up in a way that it used to. Because as your light is expanding and your frequency is raising, in a way, your roots and your anchors are needing to be fortified and more grounded, but it felt like they were a little bit brittle or a little bit unstable. And so now you're coming to a point where it's like, oh, like I'm like, I feel like I'm teetering. Like I need to rethink of how I'm going to fortify my foundation. And the foundation could be anything from what your values are, what your morals are, what's most important to you, what gives you the most excitement and joy in life, because it feels like it's definitely changing. What maybe you used to thought was good for you, you're like, oh, like that doesn't resonate with me anymore. I want something deeper. I'm looking for something that is closer to my heart space, basically, versus out of like ego, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. There's something about your dream state. Do you experience a lot of dreams, or do you like remember some dreams sometimes, or how is it, how is your relationship with dreams?
I don't have a lot of dreams, but recently I smoked some, and then I started to have some dreams. Mm.
Yeah, there's it's almost like this feeling with dreams is you're not you weren't meant to remember the dreams because you were doing other things um in your dreams that wouldn't benefit you knowing consciously. But in a way, it feels like it's going to start seeping through the information from your dreams because it's going to help activate your subconscious. It's going to help activate those codes in your DNA that are really related to those higher aspects of yourself because they're wanting to come online. In a way, it's almost like your higher faculties are wanting to come online because as you're going through this shift, this also means you have a shift in frequency, a shift in your energy, but it means it's also a shift in how your channels are flowing because before it really feels it was very as I'm feeling it too, it felt very constricted almost in the sense like I even feel my body being tense. So maybe, growing up or in the past, like you felt very tense and just like hyper aware or like kind of rigid. But in a way, it's like asking you, how can you be a little bit more at ease, a little bit more relaxed in the present moment to allow this energy to flow through. And really, what's coming through is information and downloads and insights from source, your higher self, from, and I keep feeling also from like the Akasha. You have like a connection to the Akashic field already naturally. So maybe what I'm hearing too is if you find yourself daydreaming or you're just like spacing out, like you're really tapping into this field, maybe unconsciously or subconsciously. Does that resonate on some level?
Yes, I felt like when I was teenager, I yeah, I do have some of that. And then once I step into the adult life, and I do still feel pretty tense when I wake up, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and but I yeah, I'm into this idea of spacing out and tapping into the Akasha. Yeah. So
Yeah, you're really tapping into this. It almost feels like a void because the Akasha isn't limited by space and time. So when you're in this like daydreaming or spacing out phase, when you snap out of it, you're like almost like you like forgot what time was. Like it's like, oh wait, like how long was I doing this for? Because it's like you're tapping into a different dimension. But in a way, it's like this energy that you're channeling or connecting to from the Akasha. There's something about it that is wanting to come through to help how do I say it? To help support your creativity
mhm, I see.
because there is absolutely a creative side to you, but it's like lingering outside of you, your field. But it's like how can you anchor it down and embody it in your physical vessel, in your physical body, and then to help manifest it and create it into physical reality. Because right now it just feels like it's like lingering outside of you. And maybe you feel it, maybe you feel, oh, like there's like some type of inspiration, but it's like, how can you pull it down?
Mhm. Yeah,
That resonate on some level.
it does. It does. Yeah. Mm, it's very cool.
Hmm. It feels like also, ooh, okay, this is very interesting. It feels like um let me ask for clarity before I speak because I want to make sure I'm being particular. Um, Was there any, I feel like the one to show, they're giving me like feelings of like in your dream state when you like wake up and you don't remember, but there's feels like a handful of times, like maybe two or three times where it looked like you were on a ship. So like your astral body was taken on a ship. And it feels like you were taken on a ship because they were what were they doing? It felt like not surgery, but like they were it feels like experimenting with your astral etheric body to see how it's going to play out in the physical. So in a way, you being here is also um, your experiences are giving information to these grays. You're giving them data, basically. So it's very much like this life is also very much driven for data collection, which is going to be super helpful for them because there's this aspect of them that is wanting to reconnect to that sensitivity and emotional side that we humans naturally have. And so in a way, you're like this conduit or this bridge between humans and like those great aliens. And what I'm hearing too, there's many different species and races of different great aliens. We humans, we can't. They're wanting to say is like we can't fathom like what the different species are, so we just call them grays because they all look the same, but really genetically they're very different. Because there's many different grays that come through in the past. Like if you think of like Roswell or like the UFO sightings, like those are more like negative oriented grays. But these grays are just more from the future timeline meant to help work with humans so that they can also help themselves reconnect with their source, with their feminine energy of emotions and sensitivities. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever woken up and from like sleep and you're just like, I just feel like I went somewhere or I was going somewhere, but I don't know like where I went or have you ever experienced something like that?
I don't think I remember that, but then actually recently, a week or two ago, when I wake up, I feel like my body was like shaking a lot. I now remember that one. Yeah.
Wow, yeah. Yeah. It almost feels like your dream states are only going to accelerate moving forward with periods of like, maybe not remembering, but definitely starting to remember those dreams because it feels like they're wanting to give you hints and messages to kind of who you really are, other than like your human self. Because
Mhm.
it's like they're wanting to merge, like these aspects of you are wanting to merge with you.
Oh wow. So how can I harness that though? Mm. Or like what? I guess what do I need? Not what I need, but I understand all of what you're saying, but um I'm just wondering like how
Yeah. And so it's with the heart.
the
Because
heart.
you anchor it with the heart. Your heart is the bridge between all your channels. And so the heart is really saying, are you allowing and openly receiving the emotions that are coming through you? Because the emotions are really those intense bouts of energy that are emanating from your heart. But if you're avoiding it or not wanting to face it, then it's like you're not tethering the cord. You're just kind of like letting the anchor loose. You're like, no, like go, like go away. So
Yeah.
really allowing with grace and compassion with yourself, these emotions, these sensitivities, the pains, the struggles, all of your experiences, they're really here to help anchor in those versions of you that are wanting to feel it, if that
Okay.
makes sense. Because they are disconnected from it. You feeling it is helping them
Mm.
anchor it, which is
Oh,
really yourself, your other selves.
oh. So I mean, am I supposed to feel like oh, not like okay, I see. But anchoring should be more of a positive experience then, right? Or just be very authentic to myself and just feeling into it. Mm.
Yeah, anchoring is absolutely more of a enlightening experience is the word. Because positive, it has like a certain energy to it where it's like, oh, it's good versus bad, but really it's like more neutral energy because in a way you're just anchoring in your presence. You're anchoring in your light, you're anchoring your energy. And so when you do that, when you are accepting yourself, you're also accepting all the other versions of you, if that makes sense. But if you're denying certain parts of you, then it means you're also denying some parts of yourself in different parallel timelines, future timelines, past timelines. And so there's almost a sense of like fragmentation. And so what they're wanting to say too is when people say, oh, like remember, remember, they're really saying remember, remember yourself, pull the members of yourself back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love this analogy.
Getting some chills. Let me just ground really quick because there's like a lot of energy coming through.
I feel a lot too.
Yeah, it feels like this reading is really meant to help catalyze you and trigger you into this activation of the heart and activation of your throat chakra. Um, because in a way, it's like, um,
I was gonna ask like where do you see most of the more blockages? Probably like in the throat or
yeah, it's kind of in the bridge, the channels of your bridge area, which is mainly the center of your body. It could be manifesting in other areas, like maybe your lower back, but it's really the source is like here. And so what I'm feeling too, it's like there's this energy of like dormancy in your life, but it's like now it's like how can you step out of the hibernation phase and into like really shining, really acting on your highest excitement, acting on your light, acting on your inspiration, and manifesting your insight of creation. And it's like, what do you want to create now? It's like, what do you want to co-create with yourself and with other people? Like, what is exactly are you hoping for moving forward, if that makes sense?
That's very beautiful. I think you're really on point. Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's funny you mentioned lower back too. When I had some re emotional release, there's some energy just stuck in the lower back, and then it kind of like dissipated away. So,
yeah, absolutely. Because it's interesting how your other chakras, they're really connected to the bridge of your throat and your heart. Because it's like energy is coming down, but if it's constricted here, then it's absolutely going to affect your lower chakras indirectly, not because of, circumstance, but just because of there's not enough life force flowing down. And so what I'm even hearing is like breath work. Do you do breath work or a little bit of that?
I started to do it, but then I'm not very focused. Yeah.
Yeah, so the breath work is going to help open your channels physically, but physical is just a reflection of the etheric. So the more you're breathing into your heart, the more you're really expanding your energy channels and allowing that life force to flow through. And it's going to help nourish your solar plexus, help nourish your creativity and your sacral and your passion energy and your sacral, and then rooting it down with the root chakra. And supporting your stability, anchoring down your foundation, and then even going down all the way to the Earth star and reconnecting with the Earth. Because in a way, when you reconnect with Earth and nature, you're really connecting to that feminine, emotional, sensitive side that these great aliens don't have the connection to. And so, if you're feeling more called to be in nature, um, definitely follow those nudges.
Yeah, I love nature. I love trees, gardens, everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Yeah, you have like two or three there's like two or three grays. I don't know how to label them. So I'm just gonna call them grays. There's like two or three of them. There's like two shorter ones and there's like one taller one. But it feels like it's giving very much like familial vibes. Like in a sense that they know you because they're part of your like family. Um, Family meaning, well, it's interesting because their definition of family is different than what we think of. Let me ask what exactly they mean by that. So it feels like you four, because there's four of you, were created from similar genetics because the way they procreate isn't the same as us. Uh,
Mm.
it's very like technological, like
Yeah.
which is why they're wanting to reconnect with that natural side. Yeah.
But they're looking after me somehow. Mm.
Yeah, they're absolutely looking after you because you are a very precious, like how do I say it? That's
Environment, I guess.
the word I was gonna use it like didn't resonate. I was gonna say precious asset, but that doesn't resonate at all. It sounds very like but very much that energy, oh, like you're a precious source of information and life for them. Because it's like they're able to see through the lens of human life through you because they don't understand what it feels like. So they're using you as like this channel in a sense. So the more you can step into the adventure and the excitement of life, the more you're really helping out their civilization and their species. But really, you're also helping yourself because the higher aspect of yourself is also with them. So it's like it's just a help them to help you to help them.
I always have that sense of excitement, but it's a little bit more skewed, like more like travel and some other kinds of excitement. But yeah, now I feel like I wanted to connect more with community, people, family, because I was
Mhm.
never super close with my family per se, other than my mother. But
Yeah.
she passed away. So I have everything is a little bit not very balanced early
Mhm.
in my life. Yeah, but I ha always have that sense of excitement. Mm, it's kind of skewed excitement, but it's I never really quite figured it out what it's gonna look like. Yeah. So,
Yeah. And that's part of the dark night of the soul that they're seeing. It's that restructuring. It's that reprogramming of your belief systems and the way you think and your behaviors. Because again, it's going to feel more aligned with um, what's in deeper resonance with your energy and your frequency and what really excites you at like the highest level. And it's like, how can you hold that highest perspective of yourself in any given moment? Because it's easy to like drop down in frequency and attach to the lower vibrations of like, anger and disappointment, expectation, sadness, or whatever. But it's like, how can you still hold yourself seeing it from above and like, oh, I understand this is just temporary. It's just a momentary phase of just retraction before I project and expand. And so it's like this dance of life that you're kind of really having to go through, and just really teach you about the flow of energy of like what it means to be human. Because again, it's like they're like collecting this data because that's really because for them it's like it feels like that they have a very monotonous, structured like 1, 2, 3, 4 type of lifestyle where it's not as spontaneous, it's not as adventurous. So in a way, you're here to contrast their experience with this human life.
That's why I felt like that side of me is kind of one. There's a side of me that's really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for me, how other people communicate, I was like I'm fascinated by how they think because for me it's very there's that very linear side of me. But then there's also that extremely emotional side of me too that I tap into. So I was struggling to kind of bring it together. Mm, yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, they're wanting to give an example. It's like it makes sense why you're into like Chinese astrology because it's very much of that like structured like 1, 2, 3, but also it adds a little bit of intuitiveness, which is that other side, that emotional side that you're really tapping into. So it's really bridging both of those together. And I think that's what's really helpful for you because you're really refining those two different energies within yourself.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just ground. I know there's a lot of information, but do you have any questions or like clarity about anything or personal questions you had written down you wanted to ask?
Mm, I don't know. Like I'm struggling with I with my I guess career, so to speak. I felt like things will open up eventually where I can do whatever. But in the meantime, I think for the next 2, 3 years, it feels like I could take it in any direction. But I don't know energetically what do you feel about how I can kind of stabilize things and ground myself? I guess I have some ideas, but I just want to tap. Yeah, just want to pick your brain on
Yeah,
what you.
the feeling they're highlighting back again, it's that dark night of the soul, right? Because you're going through this restructuring, you are needing more information and insight within yourself to recognize what is it that actually excites me. Because what's going to excite you is what's going to be your guiding light, and connected to your inner child
Mhm.
is what I'm feeling. And so it's like, how can you tap into that inner childness, playfulness, curiosity of just pure innocence, of just wanting to, learn something just for the sake of learning, or just to do something just for the sake of it being fun, without any agenda, without any expectation or attachment. It's very much of this like detached surrender type of feeling. And it's really connected to that creativity that you're wanting to anchor in. But there's still this phase of being familiar with yourself, all the aspects of your shadow. There's still some of that is wanting to be brought to the surface and then integrated and witnessed, and then you can kind of move forward from that. And so it's like you're still in this hibernation phase, but it's definitely coming to like the end of it. And so there's still some time for you to reflect, and just rethink about some of the things in your life before you take that conscious step moving forward. Because it's almost like you want to like move forward, but then it's like you're just kind of throwing darts in the dark, and you don't know where the aim is. But it's like how can you be conscious, shine that light of awareness, and it's like you're just following that path because you know exactly where it's going because you know your excitement, you know your energy, what your shadows are. It's very much like that sharp focus. That
Mm,
makes sense.
That's
Yeah.
thank you.
Do you have other questions you wanted to ask or anything you wanted to clarify?
Mm, you pretty much addressed a lot of my questions.
Yeah, so right now they're showing me or there's this giving me this download and feeling of like I wouldn't be surprised if they're gonna show their ship to you.
Okay, wow.
Whether it's like up looking up in the night sky randomly and you just see like a shooting star, but it's like that's not a shooting star. Or very much that. I don't know when, but it just feels like, oh, like I wouldn't be surprised somewhere down the line, like they're gonna want to reconnect in that way.
Wow. Because
Yeah.
I felt like a lot of I didn't really open up to it. I was a little bit afraid to, right? Because that's why I did exactly the all that constricted feeling is kind of how I've been feeling, especially for the last 5, 10 years, 5 years, let's say, or 10. Yeah. So mm,
Yeah, they're wanting to remind it's back at that heart space because the heart is about ease and relaxation and calmness, right? More of that sensitivity. Think like the warm embrace of Gaia, of Earth. She's very open and receiving versus like going after it. So it's just more about surrendering and allowing because it feels like when you tap into the heart more and more you're creating this frequency. You're basically raising your frequency to where you can meet your other guides at their level. It's like you're meeting them halfway. But in a
uh,
way, it's like because you're stuck on these low frequencies, it's hard for them to reach you because you're so far deep in the ocean. Because it's like there's too much pressure, there's too much density. And so in a way, you're like needing to meet them halfway. And
uh,
so that's why they're saying that, oh, like eventually you'll come to a point where your frequency is raising and uplifting because your heart is opening. And then they're going to be able to kind of like meet you at a point where you can like connect with them.
I see.
Yeah. I know it's almost like they're showing me, oh, it's like one of those times when you're like daydreaming and spacing out, like you might see it because like you're just tapping into this like void, but it's like that's when you open yourself up. Like it's going to be like random, like, oh,
I love spacing outs.
absolutely. All right, let me see if there's any last if there's any last things the records want to share with you. Yeah, there's yeah, your dog Oscar, there's such a safety container that he holds. And this connection you have with him, this relationship is definitely soul contracted to help teach you about the lessons of creating it within yourself too,
Mm,
if that makes sense. Yeah.
it does. It's a beautiful thing.
All right, let me go ahead and close the records. I would like to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the lords of Akashic Records for their point of view. And I would like to thank the Holy Spirit of Light for all knowledge and healing. The records are now closed. The records are now closed. The records are now closed. My energy stays with me. Your energy stays with you. And so it is. All right. Let me go ahead and end that recording.